In this video, I'm going to go through some of the worst tactics and noob mistakes that I've seen on Battlefield 1 over the past month or so. I did make a video a while back looking at the biggest mistakes players make in BF1, but this video expands on that with some pretty funny examples to go along with it. I've also used some ideas that you guys left in the comments section of that last video, so keep an eye out for those. First off, we have a really simple one, but something that leads to so many deaths, it's unbelievable. Not checking your surroundings. I'm a big victim when it comes to not checking your surroundings, and although I wouldn't say it's a really newbie mistake to make, it's certainly one that leaves you red-faced and in with a shout of making it into a Fails of the Week episode. My biggest fails usually revolve around tripwire bombs, as I never check for them properly. People hide them in corners, the shadows of the game make them difficult to see on occasion, and then I'll run into them and ragdoll off the screen. The worst is when you do it on a kill streak, you've got some good kills, you're on a good play, and then you run into a tripwire bomb, maybe one that's just been placed down right in front of your face, you don't see it, and that's the end. Next up, we've got being too aggressive and making little mistakes when playing infantry. People are always way too aggressive in Battlefield 1. They sprint into the action and try to kill everyone, not realising that their team is being careful and trying to find a flanking route. You'll often see people bayonet around a corner into a group of enemies, maybe they'll be lucky enough to get one kill, but then they'll just get wrecked. I think this way to play the game is very bad, and it's definitely a bad tactic. This often leads to complaining in chat as well, and people call others out for cheating, when in fact it's your own fault for running into a group of 6 enemies. What did you expect would happen? Boston Gamer left a really good comment on the last video, explaining that a mistake he makes is reloading too often when he doesn't need to. That then gives the enemy a chance for an easy kill. Now of course he's right, this is something I tend to do a lot as well. Whenever I've finished an engagement, I'm straight away looking to reload my weapon, instead of maybe checking that there's no more infantry that I need to kill next. Quite often you'll see people shoot somebody, go behind cover and automatically reload. It's a great opportunity to push and get a free kill. Die Hard also had a good comment, reloading without taking cover. We all know that mistake and we do it. I don't know why. I would definitely agree with this, especially with the reloading. People tend to reload and don't realise that when you're reloading, you can't actually shoot back. So it's not necessarily the best opportunity when you're running across open ground. Maybe reloading should be done when you're in cover, if possible. Next up, we have a real problem, something that I've hated since the beginning of Battlefield 1, and I think it's worse in BF1 than it was in the older Battlefield games, not knowing how to play your class. And this could be down to new players coming to the franchise and not really understanding how important it is to run as an actual medic or support player if you're in that class. How many idiots are there on BF1 that don't know how to drop ammo or health? In my opinion, instead of a highlight screen at the end of the game, there should be a low light screen with all the worst support and medic players listed for all of us to laugh at. I'm pretty certain this would fix the issue, or at least help alleviate some of the problems that we're all experiencing. The biggest problem for me is someone who's running around and you know they've got ammo because you've seen them drop it, but they're purely dropping it for themselves and they're not bothered about helping anyone else on the team out. This is a real issue in Battlefield 1, and maybe they could implement the fix they had in Hardline, where you could run up to a support player or a medic player and request ammo and take it directly off them.
No, he's got a crossbow launcher. Oh, he's got a crossbow launcher and a mortar. Well, that's why he's not dropping me ammo.
Another tactic that is used by a lot of players, and in my opinion is quite a silly one, is grouping up in corridors and doorways. Often you'll see this on maps such as Fort Devoe, and to be honest it can't really be avoided, but on larger maps, and as you can see in the background, Sinai Desert is a larger map where there are lots more routes in order to get to a certain place. Grouping up in doorways is only going to result in one thing. You're going to get destroyed by an enemy player by a collat or a spray from a machine gun.
Ooh, a collat.
A tactic that I see a lot of players, not only in Battlefield but in loads of games, try and employ is going prone after they get shot. You see it all the time in Battlegrounds, you see it all the time in Battlefield. You're running across an open desert, you're running across a field, something like that with not much cover. You get sniped or you get shot by a medic weapon at range and you go prone. I'm not sure why players do it, because in going prone what you've actually done is made yourself a lot easier to hit. If there's a bit of cover, yeah, I understand going prone behind that, or crouching at least to avoid getting headshot, but just going prone in the middle of a field is not a smart idea. You often see people go prone and kind of crawl to the side slightly trying to get an angle, only for them just to get headshot immediately. It's not sneaky and it's not tactical. I don't know why players are always doing this. I'm sure you've seen it, a lot on Battlefield, and it really does confuse me. Another tactic that I really don't seem to get at all is the use of mortars and other gadgets in certain situations. As you can see in the background here, I've pushed onto a flag that's being contested. It's the last flag for this team to take. There's a lot of enemies pushing it, and for some reason 3 dudes decide to get their mortars out and start mortaring. I'm really not sure why they'd do that. They can go back into their base and mortar out of there if they're looking for cover. You see what I mean? It's just not a smart move. You want to be in a position where you're not going to get hit from enemies and you're in a bit of cover. You see it a lot with all sorts of gadgets. You'll see people put down sniper shields in really weird positions where they're obviously going to get killed. Or they'll pull out their trench periscope when they're being rushed by a load of dudes with shotguns. It's kind of a weird thing to see, but you do see it a lot, and it's something that newer players maybe should try and avoid doing when playing Battlefield. I've mentioned this before in videos, bailing vehicles is not good, especially in Battlefield 1, because of the way that you can only use a vehicle properly if you have the correct class. So you have to have the tanker class for the tanks or the pilot classes in order to use the planes properly. I've noticed a lot since Christmas, and I think it's to do with newer players coming to the game, not being familiar with the Battlefield 1 system with vehicles. They take a tank, and when they start to get hit, they jump out immediately and try and repair. In BF1, you definitely don't want to do this. It's a very bad tactic. Make sure you stay in your tank at all costs. Camping off the objective is something that I hate, and is probably one of the worst tactics that you can employ in Battlefield 1. This is a big problem on game modes such as Frontlines and Operations, mainly Frontlines, because everyone joins the game thinking, oh, I can just go snipe on my own, no one will really mind and it won't have that bigger impact. But the thing is, on a game like Frontlines where you've only got 16 people on a team, it makes a massive difference if you decide to camp off the objective. And often people that camp off the objective aren't that good at the game either, so they're not exactly getting kills or spotting players. Next up we have wasting the Behemoth. I know I often say that Behemoths are stupid and that I hate them. That's my opinion, and I'm sure there is something in Battlefield that you all hate too. That being said, I know that they are here to stay, so whilst we have to endure their spam, we might as well use them properly. Players who spawn in as the driver of the Behemoth and then decide to camp off the edge of the map are 1 out of 10 players. It goes without saying that this is a really bad tactic. Your team has got the Behemoth, you've got to get it onto the objectives, get it into the action. Even if you do take a load of damage and die, the purpose of the Behemoth is to cap flags, and you only get it when you're so far behind in a game that you have to take drastic action, you have to try and cap some flags. There's no point in camping off the back of the map, especially if you don't really know what you're doing. Just don't take the Behemoth in the first place. Finally, we're going to look at one more bad tactic, and this is a bit of a weird one. Being selfish. Now this can range from not reviving to locking your squad with only 2 or 3 players in it, not repairing and bailing from vehicles when the going gets tough, or running away from your team in order to keep yourself alive when they're really trying to hold down an objective. I'm talking about not playing as a team. Being selfish and running off and playing your own game, it's fine at times, but you'll often find players that do this all the time, and they're really not bothered about helping the team or trying to win the game. They're just bothered about their own KD, or maybe their own player experience. What you need to do is work as a team. In Battlefield you get rewarded the most when you work as a team, and you'll often find squads of players who finish at the top of the scoreboard, all in the same squad because they've worked really well together and they've tried out all the different tactics and stuff that can help you win. Romulus left a really interesting comment on the last video, saying if you're a support and you see a teammate use an item like flare guns or tank mines, resupply them as soon as possible with an ammo pouch. As a matter of fact, just keep throwing ammo pouches like a madman, you're helping the whole team out indirectly. And I agree entirely, although you really should aim at someone before throwing an ammo pouch because I think the enemies can pick those up. But either way, what he's saying is you need to help as much as possible because you're going to gain from it and so are your team. Polecki left an interesting comment as well. The biggest mistake is only caring for your own KD. I agree completely, although I am guilty of this at times, especially in BF4 sometimes. If I'm in a tank, quite often I'll reverse off the objective and look after the tank, but most of the time if I can get on the objective I will try to. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like down below and let me know any other bad tactics and new mistakes that we haven't covered. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.